Hi everybody, good evening. Let's get another couple of minutes. I wasn't being rude being on my phone, but we've got so many people who are coming to join Keeping Early Years Unique, literally just coming to join right now because they want to be part of this meeting, which is phenomenal. I mean, we've had hundreds and hundreds of new members joining today. So I can see my lovely friend, Dr. Sue is there. Dr. Sue, could you do me a favour? Could you keep an eye, Sue, on new members who are joining KEYU, especially for this event, so they can see it? And oh, brilliant, well done. Right, great. Okay, we'll give it another couple of minutes. I think we'll quickly get started. We've got such a lot to get through tonight, as you all know. Once we get going, I will be asking you to turn your cameras off if you don't mind. Once we get started. And it's so lovely to see everyone saying hello to each other. That's just great, especially after a hard first day back, I think, for a lot of us. Been really blown away by the reaction to it. And I just wanted to thank you all for being so understanding, as I know that Boris is on television at the moment. And so we've had to slightly delay. But yeah, thank you for coming and thank you for bearing with us on that. It's to quote my lovely friend Anna F. Grove, it's all been a bit in the moment at the moment, hasn't it, with how things are. So thank you all for coming and you know, coming along with us. Right, we're now streaming live on Facebook and we're recording. So if you have any colleagues who can't be here this evening, you can share this video with them. It will be put onto YouTube. Great to see so many friends here. Some real local friends. Hey, Lauren, great to see some local friends here as well. And welcome to this event. Really, really excited to be here with you this evening. Gawain, can you just make sure that James is here? I think he had to go out. I think he's trying to get back in again, or he might be in the waiting room.
He's been readmitted and made a co-host, so he should be able to unmute now.
Ah, fantastic. Right, so welcome. Oh, hello, James. Oh, there you are. Right, so welcome. So we're going to get started. We've got a massive evening planned for you. We've got a phenomenal panel, and we are really all here to talk about this really exciting project, Birth to 5 Matters. I'm really, really proud to be a part of. So this evening, you've got me. I'm Elaine. I'm an early years teacher down in Southend, and I started the Keeping Early Years Unique page about nearly 6 years ago. I'm here with my wonderful colleague, Gawain, who's been the Zoom king for us, helping us do all the Zooming. So thank you, Gawain. And brilliant James Butler, an early years teacher, is here with us this evening. He'll be doing the intros and the bios and helping with the questions. And somewhere on Facebook, my wonderful friend, Ruth Moore, who is picking up questions and things from the Facebook Live. A really busy evening. I shouldn't keep talking. James, I'm going to hand over to you now, if you don't mind, to introduce our first speaker. So could I please ask everybody to make sure you're on mute and cameras off, if you don't mind, everybody, please. Thank you very much. As we're going through, please put your questions into the chat, because James will be fielding them and Gawain will be having a question session at the end. So put your questions and comments as we go. If you're on Twitter, get on Twitter with a hashtag Birth to 5 Matters. Let's get a discussion happening. Thank you so much, James. Over to you, my lovely.
Okay, everyone. So to start off with our first speaker, we've got Nancy Stewart, who's our project lead here at Birth to 5 Matters. Nancy is a writer, consultant, trainer with expertise in early years development and learning. She co-authored Development Matters in 2012 and wrote How Children Learn, the Characteristics of Effective Early Learning. Nancy is currently project lead for the Early Years Coalition's development of non-statutory guidance for the EYFS, Birth to 5 Matters. Over to you, Nancy.
Thank you. And thank you very much for having me and giving me this opportunity to tell everybody a bit more about Birth to 5 Matters. I'm hoping it's not your first introduction, because I hope that the word is out there and clearly enough awareness already so that you've wanted to come and find out more tonight. It is an exciting project and it's developing so quickly. So do notice the website, which I've put on the slide here, because if you just keep checking in to the website, there's news and events and things that you can keep up to date with. So Birth to 5 Matters, EYFS guidance by the sector, for the sector. So we're going to dig in a little bit to find out what that means. It's here to support practice in the EYFS. So we've had a strong emphasis on meeting the needs of people working directly with children in a practical way. We know that there has been very good guidance around the EYFS for many years, and people value it, and that's what we want to build upon. But it can be improved. So we've taken the opportunity to update and improve it based on very clear evidence. We've thought about evidence from at least two perspectives. One is that there is research evidence, and there's all kinds of research too. There's, very structured research, or there's practitioner research, action research. And then there's also that sort of much more informal kind of research that you do all the time, which is learning from your own experiences and the children that you're with. So practical knowledge evidence, or more theoretical and academic evidence. And we're very determined that it's going to meet the needs of what practitioners tell us they need and want. It's being produced by a coalition, the Early Years Coalition, 16 major national sector organizations. It's a mix, as you'll see here, of groups that represent groups of people having settings. So NDNA, Early Years Alliance, National Education Union, so cross schools and PVI. Also the academic side here, people training practitioners, and particular interest groups where, like KEYU, where teachers and practitioners have come together to support and learn from each other. Key messages. Well, when that Early Years Alliance first got together, the coalition, they got together in order to support the government's plans about revising the EYFS. Nearly 3 years ago now, the government said, we're having another think. So all these organizations got together and, first of all, commissioned a literature review of the evidence. And the key messages from that were that we don't need to really change the EYFS in a big way, but it would be better if we had more emphasis on the characteristics of effective teaching and learning, and more on PSED, children's emotional well-being at the center. Concentrate on speaking and communicating in real situations before we move into written language with children, and a balanced teaching approach, which I think we've always had in the EYFS. They also commissioned a survey of over 3,000 practitioners to say, what do you think works in the EYFS? What doesn't work? What could be better? And in this report, there were questions around development matters. That was the one you'll recognize there, the existing development matters from 2012. And people said, yes, it's very helpful. We use it to support planning. It's great to help people who haven't got that background in child development. However, it can be updated and improved. So the coalition has decided that we want to use the knowledge and the skills and the expertise that is in the early years sector. And again, from all the angles of people who train practitioners, who research into early childhood, and those who are learning every day about their role and the children that they work with. So we've encouraged everyone to get involved. That's part of the point of tonight, to say to you, please come and be part of it, because we know you have very strong expertise, your own professional pedagogy, rooted in your own personal values and your sense of why you're doing this job anyway. What is it that you want for children, and what makes it important? Your professional knowledge and understanding of development, of strategies and the curriculum and so on, leads into your practice. And you are that constant learner, researcher through your own work. Okay, so we are professionals, and there's this wealth of expertise within our sector. This doesn't change quickly. It's a growing process for each individual. But along comes a change to our framework. What we're looking at within Birth to 5 Matters is that doesn't mean your own professional pedagogy lurches to one direction or another or changes hugely, because it's got a really strong core already. So we need to respond to the EYFS, to the framework. We need to look at what it says, see what is there that we are responsible and have a duty to carry out. And we also may find there are things in there that stretch our knowledge. And we also want to interpret it according to what we already believe and know about the way we work. So we have a statutory framework, which the new one will come in from September for everybody. There are people who are already early adopters. But the statutory framework is only a skeleton. It gives us the areas of learning and development and educational programs, and it gives us the early learning goals and a little bit of guidance beyond that around observational assessment or ongoing assessment. Less observation in the statutory framework now than there used to be. But there's no detail about how you work with children all the way through to the phase. So Birth to 5 Matters sits alongside it. It's non-statutory guidance, as is the new Development Matters and the existing Development Matters 2012. Those are all optional. The statutory framework is the only thing we're legally required to do and to respond to. So Birth to 5 Matters is there to help us to do it. It's going to have a core document based on previous EYFS guidance that covers a lot of aspects of pedagogy and Development Matters 2012, but better, new and improved. It will be downloadable as a free PDF, and we expect that some of the coalition partners will probably be offering printed copies at near cost price so that people can have printed copy. There's also going to be an interactive online version where you can click on keywords and it will take you further in to references, evidence, but more details like case studies or further explanations. We are highlighting that it is by the sector and it's for the sector. So these sector organizations have come together with all their members to do it. And we're gathering as much input as we can in several ways. We've been very transparent about the consultation process. We started out with a survey asking general things about what did you want. We have focus groups, the organizations have their own member events. And when we've done the drafts, they go online for people to have a look and tell us what they think. We also have the input from 100 practitioners and researchers who are working in specialist groups to write about an area that they are deeply involved in and know a lot about, and to work with all of us to pull that together into one document. And that's what's really special about tonight, is we're going to hear from a number of these contributors who are working in the working groups. And I'm really looking forward to that. We also have other reference groups that we can put questions to fine-tune our understanding of what practitioners say they need and want. So it's got a buzz. It's got a lot of people talking, a lot of people thinking within our working groups and beyond. I think in some ways, this has been what keeps being reported to me from the working groups, that people are finding it so supportive of their own learning and their own thinking to work with others and really talk through these issues. And they're gelling as learning groups. not always in agreement, and I think that's useful too. So we really have to think carefully about what we're doing and why, and it's moving us all forward, and I think we'll add to the quality of our final document. So conversations all around. Our first survey, which was the general, what is it you want? We were pleased that a lot of people responded, and that they were people working with children directly in settings. As you can see, 3/4 there, working in settings, and also across the range of types of settings. Private, voluntary, few childminders, primary schools and nursery schools. The other people are consultants and academics, etc. What people told us they wanted was the EYFS that we know. We want it to be based around our principles, and we want it to be a play-based approach. So we put together our first draft, and we did highlight things people told us they wanted, and some really important areas, some of which you'll hear about from people at the front of working in these working groups. So I won't go into them now, but you'll hear from some of these. So new sections. The areas of learning and development, we've kept it organized in those principles, so that will look familiar to people, but everything in those areas of learning has been thoroughly reviewed and improved with revisions that we have evidence for. It will support practice toward all of the statutory early learning goals within the revised framework, but it's not necessarily organized around them. But the guidance makes it clear that you can see how every bit of it is going to support you to do your statutory responsibility. So we put draft 1 up. We asked people 2 things. Is it clear and accessible, and will it support practice? We asked that about every single area, and overwhelming endorsement. Agreed or strongly agreed, yes, it is clear and easy to understand, and it's useful. We also asked, what have we missed, or what could be better? And we had hundreds of suggestions, feedback that we've taken on board. We also asked, if every child's a unique child, what does that have to do with developmental trajectories and the age stage bands? How can we stop it being used as a checklist, and how can we make it not seem a prescription for individual children? We had a lot of thumbs up. People did say to us, it's an incredible resource, it will make a difference, and so many voices, democratic practice at its heart. And we had a lot of suggestions. So that all of those comments went back to the working groups to respond. We looked at the trajectories and the age stages, and we've got a plan for that now. We added a section on summative assessment. We reviewed how we looked at the youngest children to make sure that that was strong within the document. And we're looking all the time at how it can be guidance without being telling somebody an approach that they should use, really respecting each individual's decisions about their own pedagogy. Right now, draft 2 is out. It's been out for just over a week, and the consultation is open. So we're really hoping that you will go onto our website, have a look, and respond to the consultation. It closes at midnight on Friday the 26th. All the sections have been revised since draft 1, and we have new important sections, again, some of which you might hear a little bit about from our speakers. And we are showing you our solution to trying to show a progression in development and learning, a trajectory to help guide thinking about learning and planning, but not expectations for individual children at any particular age. So it's been a very fast journey. We started only in October, and at that point we recruited our working groups and we started working, and we got our first draft together, and that first consultation ran for not quite a month. So came up in view, and then, as I said, it disappeared over the hill while we did our work on it. And now we're at the point we've popped up again, and we would really like your views and your pointers for how we can improve it yet again. After this coming Friday, we'll get back to work with what you've told us. We'll also be extremely busy pulling together the extra resources that will be online and getting everything up onto our website, so it's very flexible. And then there it will be. On the 31st of March, it will be launched. And we'll be looking forward to how everyone uses it and finds that it's something that they want to have a look at and see if it's going to be of use to you. So I'm excited now to pass over to the rest of our speakers so that you can benefit from hearing some of the real richness that the whole project has involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. That was absolutely fantastic to hear from you. Some fantastic statements there, like we need to interpret this document using what we already know and do, which is just so beautiful for us to have that recognition of what we do. So the way we're going to work today is we're going to work through the Birth to 5 Matters document, and the first section is all about building and maintaining the highest possible standards, quality provision for children. And our first speaker is PREETI Patel, and she's going to talk about quality improvement. As Head of Education at MCI, PREETI draws upon her extensive experience as a practitioner to support and develop students and their learning experiences across a wide portfolio of Montessori training and recognised qualifications. So PREETI, over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be here today, as my involvement with the Birth to 5 Matters has been on two fronts. Firstly, through Montessori St. Nicholas's involvement in the Early Years Coalition, and then my direct involvement with the Quality Improvement and in brackets leadership working group. Now, as an ex-nursery manager, along with my other colleagues in the sector who were part of the working group, we were very clear on one point. And that is, research shows that effective high quality experiences in the early years will have a significant positive impact on a child's development, their progress through school and onto adult life. So we felt it was really important to make sure that effective sort of quality improvement and leadership should sit firmly alongside the 4 principles of practice within the EYFS, acting really like a golden thread throughout Birth to 5 Matters. And with that remit, we sort of started looking at the document. We've strongly felt that leadership has a responsibility to promote, maintain and safeguard quality provision. And it's really hoped that by recognizing the value of leadership in this way, a more reflective and analytical approach to practice will be adopted, which in turn will provide and develop a culture of continuing improvement, thereby advocating quality at all levels. And that could be at sort of methods of recognition, through relevancy of qualification, through research, through structural quality or process quality. And we hope that as educators who use the Birth to 5 Matters, you know, they will truly value this golden thread within the Birth to 5 Matters document. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Going to move straight on to Dr. Julie Fisher, and she's going to talk to us about transitions. Julie is an independent early years advisor and visiting professor of early childhood education at Oxford Brookes University. She is author of Moving On to Key Stage 1, Improving Transition into Primary School. So Julie, over to you.
Thank you, James. Well, I'm really happy to be here too, representing the Transitions Working Group. And as all early years practitioners know, young children face a lot of transitions in their young lives, often at a time when they most need familiarity and continuity. What they sometimes face is uncertainty and change. So the Transitions Group has been viewing transitions in the round from the point of view of the children, their parents, and all of you working in schools and settings. Many children, of course, take transitions in their stride. They've already built up that resilience that makes them able to cope with change and to look forward to meeting new people and new challenges. But in the group, we've acknowledged too those children for whom transition is not so positive. those who've had to face lots of changes in their young lives already, those who on arrival in a new setting encounter a different language, culture and set of expectations, and those very young babies who've only just formed an attachment with their parent. But we've reflected too on the rights of parents, wanting and entitled to be part of the transition process and having a really important contribution to make because of their deep knowledge, understanding and love of their own children. And we've considered their feelings about separating from their child, maybe for the first time, or maybe when it was not what they would have chosen. Then, of course, we focused on you and your role in your school or your setting as you prepare to welcome and support these very young children. Remembering that transition is a process and not a one-off event, and therefore considering how we make that process slow, steady, and positive for all of our children. And we hope that the case studies that we're pulling together at the moment will really help bring that process to life. And then finally, what we've looked at is the particular challenge for those children in England who are moving from the EYFS to Key Stage 1. A key stage that doesn't always have an environment or pedagogy that builds on what has gone before. So we emphasize the need for this transition to be smooth and seamless as it can be, and also the critical role of senior leaders in supporting a year one pedagogy that's developmentally appropriate. There was actually very little about transition in previous documentation, so we really hope these paragraphs in Birth to 5 Matters give you clear guidance about ways to plan and manage effective transitions for all of your children, the ones who are coming to you and the ones who are leaving you to move on. Thank you, James.
Thank you so much, Julie. Definitely check out the transitions part of the document. It's absolutely fantastic. Next up, we've got Dr. Nathan Archer, who's going to talk to us a little bit about child development. Nathan is a research fellow at the University of Leeds and the Nuffield Foundation. He originally trained as a Montessori teacher and has worked in early education for 20 years. Off you do, Nathan.
Thanks very much, James, and thanks for the opportunity to contribute this evening. I wanted to share very briefly two key ideas from the chapter on child development in Birth to 5 Matters. And these are ideas that, as a group, we were keen to bring to the fore in the guidance. The first of these is around children's agency, the ability to purposefully make things happen. And when we were thinking about agency, we were thinking about children's active learning, about their independence, their choice, their self-efficacy, and their growing autonomy as well. And we know that this in turn obviously impacts on levels of engagement and motivation. And as a group, we were also thinking about how this idea of agency also contributes towards children's well-being and how important that is in the current climate as well. By bringing this idea to the fore, we feel it recenters the learner. It positions the child as an agent of their own learning. Now, I'm really aware that as an idea, this is well understood in early years, and it's a concept that we work with every day. But I'm also mindful that its importance is in danger of being eroded in the current climate. And that's why we wanted to underline this idea and ensure that it was prominent in the guidance. The second idea that I wanted to draw people's attention to is the concept of children's funds of knowledge. So we've drawn on the work of the New Zealand academic Professor Helen Hedges and Dr. Liz Chesworth from the University of Sheffield. For those of you who are new to this idea, the understanding is that the development and learning of children are enhanced when connections are made between the early childhood setting and the home and other places and spaces in which children live. So children's funds of knowledge are formed through home and community experiences. And importantly, we think that funds of knowledge can provide both an anchor for children and an impetus for their learning as well. So we think that positioning funds of knowledge centrally in the guidance contributes to enhancing partnerships with families and educators, encouraging authenticity in children's educational experiences, and supporting children's identity development in many ways as well. So it seemed to us that these ideas, among many others, ensure that the unique child as a fundamental principle remains at the heart of this document and practice. So thanks for engaging with Birth to 5 Matters. Please respond to the consultation because it's crucial to us that the guidance is appropriate and meaningful and inspiring as well. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Nathan. We're going to move straight on to MENNA Dronkmeijer, who's going to talk to us about the unique child and the Child Development Group in Safe Regulation. MENNA has recently completed a PhD in early childhood education and neuroscience to help bridge the knowledge gap between neuroscience and early years. She has also designed the new CASH Neuroscience in Early Years qualification and accompanying textbooks as part of this endeavour. So MENNA, over to you.
Thank you so much, KEYU, for the opportunity to contribute to this vital event. I'm very briefly going to tell you about one of the aspects we focused on in our working groups, this being self-regulation. Most fortunate for me, given my raison d'etre, is to raise workforce awareness around what self-regulation really means, as opposed to the narrow, limited descriptors that are now the self-regulation early learning goals. Now, critically, studies continue to show that a child's ability to self-regulate, that is, to manage their thoughts, feelings, and behaviour, at just 3 years old is a better indicator of academic success than IQ. If we ponder that for a moment, how extraordinary. But there exist 3 challenges at least here. 1, those who have defined self-regulation have got it wrong. They've consciously chosen to inform the workforce that self-regulation is all about compliance, following instructions, and self-management. But critically linked to this last point, 2, there's no mention at all of co-regulation. Now, without you co-regulating children's emotions and behaviour, they cannot develop self-regulation skills. As Dr. Stuart Shanker tells us, the single most important discovery that scientists have made about the early years is that it's by being regulated that a child can develop the ability to self-regulate. Thirdly, crucially, the early years workforce has received no training to accompany the recent inclusion of self-regulation under the PSED early learning goals. What scant guidance does exist is erroneous and does not support practitioners to nurture the development of this life-essential set of skills. We therefore felt it imperative to include self-regulation in this Birth to 5 Matters guidance to redress the balance, because it's been so grossly misrepresented in the early years foundation stage as part of those ELGs. Understanding self-regulation and co-regulation can equip practitioners to be more attuned to young children's emotional states and consequent ability to thrive, not only at nursery or school, but throughout their lives. So, make Birth to 5 Matters the guidance you use to navigate your way through the EYFS. I echo my colleagues when I thank you for engaging with Birth to 5 Matters. Please do respond to the consultation. Like Nathan said, it's crucial to us that this guidance is accessible, practically meaningful, and exciting, which we really do believe it is. Thank you so much.
Thank you, MENNA. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. And really do engage, just like everyone's telling you to do today. Get onto the Birth to 5 Matters website and get your feedback in so they can apply it for the next draft. Next up, we've got SHADDAI TEMBO, who's going to talk to us about inclusive practice. SHADDAI is a lecturer at Perth College, UHI, and a postgraduate research student at the University of the Western Scotland University. SHADDAI started off as an early years practitioner and previously directed the Bristol Men in EY network. He is a trustee for early education, co-governs the SERA EY network, and writes independently at critical.earlyyears.org. Over to you.
Thank you, James. I hope you can all hear me okay. It's really nice to be here. It's so great to see so many of you along to support the process. I just want to start with a comment on what it's been like to be part of the working groups. I know it's been really, really exciting, but I also want to name the feeling of apprehension. I think it's been really nerve-wracking because we want to get this right as much as possible, especially with equalities, which is such a complicated area with a long history of knowledge behind it. It's been really difficult to condense all of that information that we want to show within those 2 pages of text. And I think in that sense, we're really looking forward to the interactional nature of the document going forward with lots of links to additional reading and supplementary resources. Some might say that the language we're using within the document is too complicated. We do name intersectionality, we do name race, gender, and ableism, but I'll say again that this is necessarily very complicated work. The real challenge for us has been to balance the need for making sure the language is as accessible as possible, so it's clear and coherent for a range of practitioners, but also ensuring that we use the accurate terminology wherever possible. And I really hope we've achieved that balance within the text. We also wanted to produce a section on equalities that reflects the needs of the current moment. I'm certainly conscious that there's been a real increase in interest in equalities in the past year. So we want a profession that not only meets the needs of the Equality Act, but is much more proactive in ensuring that the environments our children grow up in are as free as possible from gendered and racial stereotypes and prejudices about who they should be and who they should become. My final point is that we will see our commitment to focusing on the child at the centre. I'm very much aware that that's a phrase that gets thrown out a lot without meaning much and losing different context. So for us, in the equalities context, focusing on the child at the centre means ensuring that the children can see their identities reflected within the setting in as many positive ways as possible. It also means ensuring that the storybooks, the resources we use are diverse and show images of diverse families and structures that challenge what we normally see on children's TV or in broader children's culture. Ultimately, it means acknowledging a child's gender, their culture, ethnicity, religion, home language, their family background, individual learning needs and interests. All of these are fundamental to the issue of equalities and are central to our commitment to foregrounding equalities in the early years. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Brilliant. So to round off our chapter on the unique child, we've got Dr. Janet Joyson, who's going to talk to us about SEND. Dr. Janet is Associate Professor of Education at the Plymouth Institute of Education, with professional background in teaching young children with special educational needs in a range of preschool settings and in their homes. She has carried national and international research into professional development for practitioners to support their understanding of inclusive pedagogy. Over to you, Jen.
Thanks very much. Well, our group of special educational needs practitioners and researchers also wanted inclusion to be at the heart of the document, and also sensitivity to special educational needs and disability to run through it, not just something that's in a separate section by itself. Because early years principles clearly support work with children with special educational needs and disability, children who are definitely unique, really need positive relationships and particularly benefit from an environment that helps them to learn and develop. And because of this potential, the EYFS has often been used in special provision for children beyond 5 years of age because it meets their needs so well. But special provision is shaped by the wider context, policy, procedures, other professionals, society's attitudes to disability. So early years practitioners themselves also need to have positive relationships with many others to get the most out of the system. Parents, colleagues, speech and language therapists, local authority personnel, you know how many people are involved. What's more, making an enabling environment means anticipating and balancing the needs of different children. What's stimulating for one child might be overwhelming for another. So all this means careful observation, noticing children's interests and strengths, and also what might be holding them back, so that we can act with the child, shape activities and routines to help them get the most of their time with us, and to meet different needs without making the child feel different. We also need to share our insights with others about how we know that this child is special and perhaps needs something more, and so that we might get some more funding to help support the child. So how do we know what to notice? Well, Birth to 5 Matters can help here in so many ways. And in time, members of our group are going to add pointers to further resources to help with knowing what to notice and then where to find help in interpreting what we've noticed. But most of all, in our group, we want to encourage an image of the child in early years provision that is a really inclusive image. And this means thinking about children whose impairments and life experiences and background mean, well, they might not turn up in your setting especially resilient. They might not immediately reach out and interact with others. They might even have life-limiting conditions that mean that their physical or mental development isn't always going to be moving upwards and onwards. So an inclusive image of the child with special educational needs means taking on board what their life is really like, being watchful and respectful, and anticipating what they will need on their trajectory through an education system that probably wasn't really designed with them in mind. And I think we know our greatest allies here can be the children themselves. In the early years, children can learn to be advocates for themselves and for each other. They are learning that people have different needs and different ways of being. And so they will move through life believing that we should be arranging things so that everyone's needs can be met. So please respond to the consultation to let us know how we could help you further.
Thank you so much, Jan. Right, we are going to move on to positive relationships now, the positive relationship section of our speeches today. And we're going to have Wendy Howes up next, who's going to talk to us about attachment and key person. Wendy has worked in early years throughout her entire career. And as a teacher for over 10 years, she is now assistant head teacher at Guildford Nursery School and Family Centre, which is a maintained nursery school. Alongside her leadership role, she is the classroom teacher as a key person. So over to you, Wendy. Thank you so much.
Hello, thank you. So the key person approach, it's obviously a statutory requirement, but why is it so important? The primary reason, of course, is that attachment is absolutely essential for young children. They need to have a significant adult or adults within the setting that know about them. Children thrive within secure relationships, which leads to healthy brain development. This lessens any anxiety in order to develop pathways in the brain and impacts upon their well-being and good mental health. And of course, all these things need to be in place before any learning can occur. When we wrote the first draft, we realised we'd written a bit of a to-do list about being a key person and hadn't addressed the fact that being a key person is a really joyful role, not without its challenges, but being able to share and delight in the child's experiences and explorations, knowing that the child is known and understood, cared about, and is able to feel safe, knowing that you're really making a difference. Research shows that improved staff retention and longevity is often the case due to staff job satisfaction and being able to meet challenges with like-minded, supportive practitioners and, of course, leaders as well. So we're hoping that the guidance goes some way to support those that need that support from higher up. We've listened to the challenges that people have let us know about. So reception classes where there obviously won't be the same ratio as in a nursery class. PVI settings where staff may be on rotas or work different days. We would ask that you look at the principles of the key person approach and start with what's realistic, what's doable. So thorough transition from home to the setting, to either home visits or what a lot of us have done recently are garden visits, obviously due to restrictions currently. And then obviously thorough transitions again between the setting and the next setting. So for example, moving on to school. Knowing that child and family well, their backgrounds and beliefs, and providing personalised and relevant experiences. Tuning into a child, how they learn, what their preferences are, and things that they dislike as well. We're also aware that some key people don't have experience or qualifications as much as others. And we really think it's important that those people are respected, valued and supported in order that they can aspire to be the key person that they would like to be. And again, I really hope the guidance goes some way to support you with that. So thank you very much.
Right, we are now moving into the enabling environments part of our conversation with MENNA Godfrey. And she talks about learning environments, both indoor and outdoor. MENNA owns and is the pedagogical lead at a small outdoor playgroup based in the outskirts of York. Her master's research focused on young children's play in the garden. MENNA is passionate about supporting colleagues to provide environments that speak to all children, offering opportunities for children to engage with, explore and transform the world around them. Really excited about this. Over to you, MENNA.
Thank you, and thank you so much to Elaine and KEYU. What a privilege it's been to be part of this working group as well. And we were so delighted to have the brief of indoors and outdoors, many of us coming from a real passion about children's learning outdoors. You all know that just as every child is unique, every setting is unique. And we recognise that practitioners are the real experts in their settings, whether it be their home for a childminder, a playgroup, nursery, school, wherever you are, you're the experts in that setting and in the children. And what we wanted to do was to provide a set of principles that practitioners from all this huge range of environments could use as they underpin and think about the development of their spaces, so that what they move towards is a truly enabling space. We wanted to support that reflection so that they can make best environments for children as they learn alongside each other. Our principles based on experience and informed by research, and they form the bones of our section, and they'll be supported by case studies and research articles on the website. Much as we know that children need to form good attachments with their key people, we also recognise that they need to form attachments with the environment, so that along with the support of those significant adults, they feel secure and safe in the spaces, and they're confident to be themselves and become deeply involved in their play. And crucially, research makes it clear that time outdoors supports all children to develop holistically. The working group agreed that children should have time outside every day, and wherever possible, that this should be at the child's initiation. We're pleased to see the emphasis of time spent outdoors across the whole of the document, and we want to ensure wherever possible that children can benefit from long periods of time outside. We hope that practitioners will use our principles to pose themselves questions to reflect on their environment. So they might ask themselves, is my environment welcoming to all? Can children and their parents feel safe and relax and be themselves, and staff as well? Do we all feel at home in this environment? Do the spaces invite us to play? What do our spaces say to the children that come into them, to their families? Can children feel able to explore freely? And does the environment enable freedom of movement between activities, not just indoors and outdoors, but within each space? Does the environment offer choice and opportunity for diverse forms of play, for movement, for action, for creativity and imagination, independence and collaboration? We wanted to also raise the profile of open-ended resources, and recognising that these resources enable children to begin to think flexibly and to use one thing to be something else, to begin all of that that thinking that comes alongside with that, and flexibility of thought and symbolic representation. And really importantly, we wanted adults to understand that the possibilities of their environments for children's learning, and that the environment of what the environment affords, and how their implicit or their explicit permission or non-permission giving impacts on the playability of the spaces. We hope we've achieved that, and we'd really, really value your feedback on the enabling environments, learning environment, indoor and outdoor section. Thank you.
Thank you, MENNA. Brilliant. So we've moved through all the different principles we asked, and now we're down to learning and development. And we've got Di Chilvers here with us now, and she's going to talk about observation, assessment and planning. Di is an advisory consultant in early childhood education, an early education associate, author, school/settings improvement partner / mentor and researcher, creator of the development map and the observation toolkit. Over to you, Di.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. What a wonderful audience, and thank you for asking me to tell you about the observation, assessment and planning working party group. It's been a real privilege working with the group. We've asked ourselves lots of questions, we've done a lot of talking, we've met every week, and we really actually enjoy doing that. What we've really been concerned about is that observation and assessment have really come under particular scrutiny in the last 3.5 years. And there's a huge concern about the role of observation, particularly in early years practice, becoming diminished in this sort of thing about the workload agenda or reducing workload. And I think there's lots of things to unpick there, which we've talked long and hard about, because, you know, it's not necessarily observation that's causing the workload. It's probably the fact that a lot of people have been spending time ticking lists and highlighting things and statements from development matters and recording that. So that's really probably been a big culprit in the workload issue. And one of the things we're really trying to move people away from is doing that, and into much more informed, professionally informed thinking about children's development and learning. So there's a lot of child development aspects featured in our discussions. But Observation, assessment and planning doesn't stand alone as a separate task or activity with the sole purpose of assessment or measuring impact. It's part of our professional practice, without which we cannot really properly understand children's development. So we show in our piece in the Birth to 5 Matters guidance just what a complex process it is and what it actually involves. So we've now gone from having 1 page on observation and assessment and planning in the previous document to having 4 pages in the Birth to 5 Matters guidance to really flesh it out and add a lot more to it. So we started by thinking about what were our key questions around this. What did we really want to focus on in our review of observation, assessment and planning? And how would those questions really ground us in thinking about what we were going to do by way of reviewing it? So we look at the process, which starts with the unique child and the observe, assess, plan cycle, so familiar to us in the Development Matters document. So we take that cycle that's so well known and we really build it and think, well, what's around that? What fits around that? But we also do that from the child's perspective. So we have the child's voice in there about, you know, what are you seeing when you're observing us? You know, what are you thinking, and so on. So there's lots of reflective questions in there to hopefully make people think about what's happening and what they're seeing. So we take a fresh look at what's meant by formative and summative assessment, and particularly what's meant by assessment for learning, because we think those 3 terms, those 3 aspects really need careful unpicking and much more sort of meat around it, really, to help people with those things, those processes, which we also think will help with people avoiding lots of extra additional paperwork and stuff that they perhaps don't really need. So we also have been thinking about the following aspects, and we've got sections on each of these points in the 4 pages. So we think about observation, assessment and planning as part of professional practice. It's in the core of our work, day in, day out. We're doing it all the time. So we have to recognise that we can't really do our work with children without doing that observe, assess, plan process. We take a holistic view of the child and how it all meshes together. We talk about how practice starts with the child and grows in partnership with parents and lots of other people as well. We talk about responsive pedagogy that's needed to recognise what children know, understand and can do. And we spend quite a bit of emphasis on that understand bit, because that's really something we feel is missing in some other documents about children's real understanding. That's what we need to see in observation. We talk about how children and adults construct the curriculum together. And we also talk about reliable summative assessment growing out of formative assessment. So we see the links. We wanted to include the practitioner's voice and particularly practitioner's knowledge of child development and how that can be supported. And also about how observation, assessment and planning is also part of a quality element to what we do. It's the quality, it gives us that view of quality of curriculum, practice and provision. So finally, we included a holistic model. We wanted to show holistically how observation and assessment is at the core of what we do. And so we borrowed from Brofenbrenner's model of ecological systems, which nests the child in the centre, surrounded by all these contexts and influences. And one of those contexts is the curriculum. So the child surrounded by the curriculum. That's on page 34 of the guidance. So have a dip in on that and see what you think. We will be writing more about that model and to explain what we're doing and where we're coming from with that. Hopefully it'll be self-explanatory, but we do feel we need some work underneath that to flesh that out. So that will be in the underpinning resources, along with lots of other materials and case studies. So please have a look at that and add your voice, add your thoughts, because we really want to know what you think about that and if there's any more tweaks we need to make. So thank you. And yeah, just read it. Be great. It's really good. Thanks.
I echo that. Just read it and engage with it, please. People, read it. Okay, next we've got Elaine Bennett to talk to us about mathematics. Elaine began her career in nursery nursing, and she knows that her NNEB training made her the teacher she is today. NNEB. Nearly 6 years ago.
Yes, NNEB. Sorry, I get a bit carried away. Sorry, James.
My mum's here with an NEB as well, so you know, it's going to be fantastic. Nearly 6 years ago, out of concern at the direction of early education was taking in England, she founded Keeping Early Years Unique, and the rest, as they say, is history. Elaine, over to you.
Thank you very much. Right, whistle stop tour. Okay, so it's really interesting, actually. Yes, and NNEB does rule. You are quite right. I could sit here now just saying yes, NNEB, but I must get on. Right, so I'm sort of like the last speaker in the order of this, looking through the order of development matters. And what's interesting actually is it's not until you get to page 49, so you're almost halfway through the document, when you actually get near a grid that is looking at, you know, the sort of grids that a lot of us rush straight to when we pick up our 2012 version of Development Matters. There's a real danger that we rush and we grab those grids and off we go with the grids and, you know, we're doing whatever with them. Tonight, what I hope you've heard is actually all the work that actually is going before the grids. And it's a very snapshot, I know, but I want you to hear from this amazing panel that this document is so much more than a list of what children should be doing, all right? So, as Nancy said, we began with what is good in the 2012 document. We do not need to be throwing out baby with the bathwater. So what's good? What needs updating? And everything that we have changed in that document, in all the areas of learning, is because we found the evidence and the research to know that it needed to be changed. So when you start reading through some of the age bands, and some of the sort of the bands as they are now, you might think, oh, I remember that bit, I remember that bit, I know that bit from before. That's because there was no need for us to change it. It still is relevant, it's still current. And I love the idea about children one way through. You know, we're not talking about ticking off. We need to get away from that, even though that was never intended with the first document. So, you know, we need to make sure that we really hold on to this view that we are giving you within those bands. Yes, we're giving you things that you can be looking out for and things to support you as you think about how your children are learning and how they're moving through various areas of learning. But on top of that, we are giving you so much about what you as an adult can be doing and what you can be doing in your environment. So this isn't a prescriptive document. It's not an off-the-peg curriculum. It's something to support you, to really help you to reflect and evaluate. And I'm so humbled to be in the maths group. I'm probably the least clever person in that group because I'm around these amazing mathematicians and their expertise is phenomenal. And one of them is Kath Gripton. And she did a lot of work in Nottingham, actually, with the Maths Hub, looking at mastery and what it means. And what she talked about in relation to maths, but actually anything, the roots of mastery are the effective learning characteristics. And that is why they play such a core part in this document. What's happening to them in the EYFS reforms is they are being watered down. They are being made to be about rates of development. That is not what they are. They are about the amazing how of learning. So you know what, when you look through these age bands and when you get to the end, you're looking through the bands, you will see that we have put the early learning goals in. But that's not because we are working towards the goals. And actually what is in that unique child column hasn't been developed by working back from the goal. My advice to you, and even from the DFE themselves, is that those goals are not the curriculum. Do you know what? Don't even look at those goals Until you are a reception teacher and it's a summer term, then look at the goals. Because I guarantee you, and I promise you, if you use Birth to 5 Matters, and if you use it to inform your curriculum across all areas of development, your children will grow and they will flourish. And if we hold on to all the things we've heard about today from MENNA and, and from Nathan with a child's voice, that is what gives you your curriculum. Okay, so in terms of maths, do you know what? I would say out of all the areas of learning, there was a lot of work to do. And that's because we know so much more now about early maths. I know a lot more. I know about supertising. I didn't know about that a few years ago. So, in terms of maths, there was a lot of work to do. So that is probably one area that you probably think, oh, that looks very different, because it is. It had to be. We've got the evidence. We've got the research. It needed to be updated. So actually, when you look at that maths section that I'm really, really, really proud to be a part of, what we want to give to you as practitioners, and who many of you, including me, perhaps aren't always confident with mathematics, who perhaps have their own anxiety around mathematics. We want to give you, what is it children need in mathematics? What are the big ideas of mathematics? It does look different and it may look overwhelming. I saw that comment there in the thing, but I promise you it is giving you what children need, and that is based on research. So we want to give you the subject knowledge, but then on top of that, to bring that to life, we want to help you develop your pedagogy. We want to give you, as an adult, what is it you need to be doing? In your environment, what do you need to be offering? And the reason that I'm so proud as a practitioner to be involved in this is because within those examples of the environment and within those examples of what we can do, I have put my heart and soul into the reception section, and I've included there things that happen in our wonderful early years provision each and every day. So it's about how we bring together the child development and the pedagogy and our role. So actually, Birth to 5 as a whole, what is it? We want it to give you confidence. We want you to know when Ofsted come calling or anyone comes calling. We want you to know why you do what you do. And actually, if you look at, and if you think about the areas of learning, they link so clearly to the Ofsted teaching definition in the early years. We are talking about your knowledge of children. We are talking about your interactions. We are talking about your environments. And an added bonus of this resource is going to be all of the online stuff. There are so many amazing resources out there to support you with early maths, and we'll be helping you to find those. So this is your document, people. It's great you're here. Your job now is get involved in the consultation, the conversation, and tell everybody, okay? And that kind of brings me on really to our final little section, which is moving away from the Birth to 5 document and into something that is so ingrained within me out of need, and that is being an early years activist. And I'm going to now hand over to someone who, thank goodness, he has been on our side doing amazing work through this pandemic, the amazing Gawain Little. I mean, Gawain's a primary school teacher, he's an NEU executive member, and he's also standing to be the next Deputy General Secretary. So anyone in the NEU, when you see the votes coming out, please give Gawain your votes. Gawain, if I can hand over to you for a bit of activism, please, to round us off.
Brilliant. Thank you, Elaine. And the first thing I want to say is it's such a privilege to be involved in this event, to be surrounded by so much passion and so much expertise. And I think everything we've heard tonight shows us how important the early years is to the whole future of our children's lives. It's so, so important. And yet in the recent pandemic, we've seen how the voice of early years educators hasn't been heard, how the funding model, which is so fragile, was used to force early years settings to stay open when other educational settings moved to vulnerable and key worker provision only. And for me, it's really highlighted the need for a long-term funding model. So we've been out campaigning supporting for the voice of early years educators to be heard, but it's still not loud enough. So I'm here with one message really, which is to urge you, please get involved in your union. If you're not a member of a trade union, join the National Education Union. Get involved, raise your voice, and let's fight for a new deal for early years. Whether you're in a maintained nursery, whether you're attached to a school, whether you're in a PVI setting, we need to all come together to protect early years funding and to protect the sector for the future. Please join with us, please raise your voice, and let's protect this vital sector going forward into the future.
And just from me, before I go back to, hopefully, I'm sorry, I know we've overrun slightly, building on that, baseline is coming. Okay, guys, we need to get involved. Go on, get involved with more than a score. Let's say no. Let's get rid of baseline once and for all. The DfE want to know your thoughts on their EYFS reforms, which do include mentioning baseline within our statutory framework, and which do also include the real watering down of the effective learning characteristics. So get involved. All these things are going on. I'm going to hand back to James now. He's probably about to tell me off for talking too much. James, I'll come back to you now.
Yeah, Elaine, you overran massively. What's this about? Right. So I've got some.
I can't help it. I get carried away. I can't help it, James.
You spoke so passionately about mathematics. It's really exciting because it's such an area which I know across the sector we all are quite intimidated by, but we don't need to be. And that's what's really come across from your speech today. So that's really exciting. I've been trying to keep an eye on the questions through this section. I'm sorry if I've missed your question out, but I've done my best. So I've got some really key questions that I'm going to try and put to the panel and different people who spoke today. So the first one was from Louise, and she was quite passionate in the chat talking about special education needs and disabilities and SEND guidance. And one thing she talked about was about SEND guidance for practitioners and how that would appear in the document. And we heard a little bit about that. I wonder if there's anyone who would like to come on and speak a little bit more about that. Go on, Nancy.
Well, okay. I wondered if Jan would describe a bit more. Yes, we are planning through the additional resources, which will be available if you use the online version of, well, it'll be there as resources on the website, but if you're looking at the online version, there will be words that are hyperlinked. So where there's an issue about, for instance, getting extra support, that might be hyperlinked to examples, case studies, as Jan said, practical support for practitioners to think, what do you observe and what are you going to do with that information and where do you go for help? And I think that bringing that alive in real practical ways will be something that is offered through that extra layer that we're putting underneath the core document.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Kelly asked a question about guidance for our carers and our families and our parents. Will that sit alongside Birth to 5 Matters, or is that something to think about down the line?
Yes, I think it is something for future thought. The steering group of the Early Years Coalition is currently thinking about where it goes from here, because initially it was a project just to get this launched at the end of March, and now they are realizing that there's further levels of work to be done, and the possibility of something for parents is has been mentioned, but no plans made about that at this point.
One question that's come up from a lot of different people, so I'm not going to name anyone with this one, and sort of tried to mash together what quite a lot of people have asked, and it's all around sort of training and bringing this guidance into their setting. One particular concern that's raised is about practitioners who are new to early years and how we would support them in engaging with Birth to 5 Matters as a document.
I wonder if anyone else wants to answer that. I mean, I'm happy to, but we do have this wonderful panel here. Any other volunteers? No, well, in interest of time, we do have, alongside our 19 working groups, we have a couple of subgroups as well. And one is the CPD, Continuing Professional Development Group. And they are put some proposals to the steering group. And what they're thinking about is perhaps having the core training to support local authorities, senior leadership teams. For people new to the profession, I think it's going to have a very strong role for people doing training we've had a lot of comments that this is an ideal document to build training for practitioners around. So as they move into the profession, they'll have this resource behind them.
I think probably one really good for Di to talk about potentially is how, this is from Carol, how do we record assessment? She's quite concerned about meeting pressure from top down to have what assessment might look like in early years under the Better 5 Matter document. So Di, if you want to come in on that one.
Yes. I mean, it's the sort of how long have you got, really? I think we have to look at new ways of thinking about how we manage observation, assessment and planning, and think about, well, you know, what's important to record and what do we need to record and what don't we need to record. And I think, you know, if you are, what we need to record, if you listen to everybody else talking, you know, tonight, is really what children, how children are learning, what children are doing, really watching carefully and not having to particularly record everything they do, but certainly certain moments need. I mean, if you think about children with special educational needs and what Jan was saying, you know, she uses those lovely words like being watchful and being carefully watching children and really thinking about what's going on and understanding children's development and progress. So I think we need to actually think about, well, how can whatever we record, whatever we are recording of children's, you know, whether it's a learning story, an observation, something short, a photograph, some photographs of what children are doing, we need to make sure that we've used our professionally informed knowledge and understanding of what's going on there. You know, how are we interpreting it? And then think about how we can best share that with parents and with others, professionals. So say, you know, if you the speech therapists or support people and so on, without having to write reams and reams of stuff, and definitely not having to highlight anything. So the big jump we've got to make, the big sort of bridge we've got to do is to support practitioners into becoming more confident about using their own professionally informed decisions about children's progress. And if we can do that, that's a huge job, and that's part of the CPD stuff. And, you know, people have just come from another meeting where people have said we're going to need help with child development. And I think that's where the key is that if people understand child development much better, then they can, you know, really make those professionally informed decisions and not have to highlight any statements, actually just really talk in a professionally informed way about what children are doing and how they're progressing. So, okay, you know, 6 months ago they were here, 3 months ago they were here, this is what's happened, and now they're here. And we've got to be able to get our, you know, really young, inexperienced practitioners able to do that and talk confidently about children, as well as reception teachers and early years leads in EYFS teams and in schools. So there's a lot of work to do on that, I think, and it's about looking at observing and recording that.
I think
that's
I've got
a short answer because it's massive. That's massive. But there's lots of blogs. I blog about that a lot on my website. So there's lots of stuff on there and on the early education blogs as well.
Yeah, and I think sort of this next question nicely sort of links to that from Helen. In terms of recording those observations, etc., maybe this one for you to answer, Nancy. Has there been any engagement from the online learning journals to promote this kind of guidance and encourage and use it in their working?
Mm-hmm. Yes, there has. We've had from a number of providers of apps or online systems for communicating with parents and keeping information, and people are keen to work with this and to put that onto their put our work onto their platforms. And what we're looking at is how that might be able to be done in a way where we still have some sort of licensing, so it can only be used in ways that we feel are authentically useful, and outlawing checklisting and automatic next steps and all of that business, that it would be real information. And also in that summative side, perhaps looking at a very broad best fit, so you can generate data from that, but it's not false data of how many statements has a child made. So much more meaningful.
Beautiful. And while I've got you, Nancy, a couple of asked this: why not birth to 7?
Well, if only. Yes, a number of people have said that, and it's absolutely true, isn't it, that the early years and early childhood does not stop, and in fact we ought to be calling it birth to nearly 6, because children many of them are nearly 6 when they finish the reception year. So birth to 5, I think, it had always been called a 3 to 5 year curriculum, but it's true. And I think some of the points around transition and children moving into Key Stage 1 are about giving children the approach that is appropriate for children of that age, which certainly doesn't stop at the end of reception. So we're hoping that this would carry through some of the principles and guidelines.
Brilliant. Okay, last question then before we start our rounding up section. I'm going to direct this one at you, Elaine, because a few people asked this during the math section. Was about the math section in particular. When they were reading through it on this draft document, they found the length quite overwhelming, and they're engaging with it, but they found it quite long. What do you think about that as someone who's in practice working every day?
It is long, and I don't disagree with that, and that's why we need everybody to engage with us in the consultation. That's actually shorter than it was, Nancy will tell you. It is long because maths, the thing is, if you think about like language and literacy, you've really got sort of one area sort of split up there, whereas maths is just so all-encompassing. There's so much within maths, and we know that now there's not an early learning goal for Shakespeare as a measure. We want to make sure we've got lots of that in there. So it is long, and I don't know what the answer to that is. I think maths is just a really huge area. So, within the working group, we are looking at, we're taking on your feedback, and we're thinking about how we can sort of reduce it, but then we don't want to lose the content. And I think the whole thing is, if we really are committed to moving away from this ticking off, I mean, there's no way you could tick that off. You would go crazy, because there is so much content there. If you really use it in the way that it's been designed to support your pedagogy and your practice and your subject knowledge, maybe it wouldn't feel so overwhelming. I don't know. I mean, Nancy will tell you, we are cutting things out of it all the time, but we don't want to lose the absolute essence of what is so essential in early maths. And we know now we know more the research we have, it's how we keep that there. But I think a key point is that when this is all released, and we've been working on the online resources, there are so many resources that we're going to be sending you off to look at, so perhaps you can explore things deeper if you particularly need to. But if people really find it is too long, it is too overwhelming, you need to tell us that, so that we can take that on board and act on that. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. It's unfortunately children, and maths especially, is a really big subject. So I don't know, Nancy, what to say. We're just constantly taking on board your feedback, and whatever you tell us, we will act on that within our group.
And I'm hoping that's coming across from all of our speakers today, who've all been absolutely fantastic in giving up their time to speak to you here. Everyone is here who wants your feedback. All the working groups want you to speak to them. So please get to the Birth to 5 Matters website and give your feedback before this consultation closes on Friday. Before we get to our rounding up statements, make sure to visit the KEYU Facebook page to carry the conversation going. If you have any questions, make sure you ask them on there. Most of our speakers from today are there and ready to answer and ready to speak to you. If you're on Twitter and not on Facebook, like I know some of you are, you can use hashtag Birth to 5 Matters, and there'll be someone there to speak to you. So please get on there, keep this conversation going. But to round us off for today, we've got a short roundup from Nancy Stewart. Over to you.
Hello. Well, I've spoken about Birth to 5 Matters a number of times to different groups, and this is the first time I've had the opportunity to hear one after another representatives from these different working groups. And I personally found it really touching and thrilling to think the level of commitment and care. And I'm sure you've seen the breadth of knowledge and deep thought that is going into this. And this was 10 people out of the 100 who have come together to build this. So it is an overwhelming pool of richness, and all volunteers, all giving this from their heart because they know it's important. And we all know it's important, which is why you're here this evening. So I just want to thank you all for what you put in day out, and going the extra mile or extra 100 miles daily for young children. So thank you very much, and do engage and be part
privately.
of it.
I don't want that to go privately.
Di, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
So
perfect. To finish us off today, we've got our closing statement from the person who brought us all here to speak and to talk today, and that's Elaine Bennett from Keeping Early Years Unique. Thank you, Elaine. Oh, you're muted, Elaine.
This time it won't be, I promise. I will not overrun, because we were overrun already. Just thank you everyone for coming. You know, we pulled this together so at a last minute, but the speakers, I mean, you know, within this panel, there are people that have inspired me from when I was sort of training myself. So I really, really can't thank you all enough. Really humbled that you came along, and so proud to be part of this document. Within my school and my setting, we will be working with this because it's what's right for our children. And if you think it's right for you and your children, then please pick it up and run with it and spread word, get involved in the consultation. But I think finally I have to really say thank you to the people that have helped me host. Wayne, thank goodness for your Zoom account. Ruth and Sue, thank goodness over on Facebook. And James, I tell you what, I think when the clubs reopen, you could have a job out there as a DJ. Absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much, all of you. I'm going to hang around here for a minute for any questions or comments. Come over onto KEYU, but absolutely brilliant. But you know, this isn't the end now. Please get involved in the consultation, get out there, tell everybody, get this recording, and come on, let's make this even bigger than it already is. Thank you, everybody.
Silent clapping, silent clapping.
And now you can spotlight me, please, James.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
I'm on this
right, get to bed, everyone.
Screen.
You got to open your nurseries and schools at 6 a.m. Go on.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody.
Bye, everyone.